And then, so here we have the code where we usually write most of the code. It's in our main.dat file. So this is our main.dat. We'll have a look at it later on. And then we have our Android folder here. And yeah, just those are enough for now. So yeah, the first thing that we're going to be doing is, okay, let's first of all try to define, let's first of all install the dependency that we're going to be using. So I'm going to open up my terminal on VS Code. Let me actually close the other terminal. How is the other terminal? Yeah. So we're going to be using this terminal on VS Code. And yeah, so what I wanted us to do, we're going to install the in-app patches, which is unaweza kuja hapa kwa pub.dev. So pub.dev, it's like, think of it as like a repository for Flutter packages. So you can get any package that you want here. So in this case, we're going to be using the in-app purchases. It's like doing something like npm install. So it's like a registry for all these. So let's look at the repositories, and unaona this is the official in-app patches. So how we usually install it, tutakuja tu, and you can read the documentation hapa kwa installing. Remember, just always read the documentation. So ikwama, Google is always there to help. Even senior engineers, they Google. So this is the command that you'll run, which is flutter pub add in-app purchases. So it's the same as doing something like npm install whatever package you're using. So I'm going to do a flutter pub add in-app patches, and it's going to install that package. Let's look at our pubspec.yaml, and utanotice imekuja hapa kwa dependencies. Currently, we are using the latest version, which is 3.3.0, and we have the dependency installed. So another thing that we're also going to be doing, tutakuja to set our how is it called? We're going to set the permissions, like the billing permission. So remember, Android will need like a specific, we have to set like permissions. So nitakuja kwa app source main alafu Android manifest, and I'll have to, so this is like where we have maybe the app name and anything that you're doing. So nitakuja ni set like the permissions to enable billing. So think of it this way, we're going to be, in as much as yes, we're writing Flutter code, we have to like sort of manipulate our Android application ndio iweze kufanya some things. So an example of this is, assume your application iko na kitu kama biometrics. You have to declare it in the Android application, ikupatie access to the hardware in order for it to use the biometric setup. Ndio weke vitu kama fingerprint. Another example is, I think, something like Torch. I don't know if Torch works, or if you're building an application that is sort of needs to vitu kama get push notifications, you have to declare that in the Android manifest. So in our case, or even internet. So in our case, I'm going to have the users. So I'm going to have the users permission. And then, okay, I'll disable Copilot for now, but okay, so now like an example, in case your application needs to use internet, you have to define the permissions. So let's disable Copilot for now. Yeah, so we're going to use Android name. And then the permission that I need is coming from com.android.vending.billing. So the permission that we need in our case need billing permission. And then I'm going to close that. So in Equambia, that our application that will be using the billing permission. And once we have that, that's actually enough for now. So another thing that you also need to check, after we have the build.gradle, ensure that you have your package. Mnakumbuka the package that I was telling you about, com.lxmoniki.perfect. And right now, according to the new Google Play policies, this has to be unique. So huwezitumia like an application ID of an application that already exists. Play Store will reject your application. So the next step that you're going to be doing, you're going to sign our application. So what exactly is signing? So kusign our application is, think of it this way. I want to ensure that Niki push like my, okay, see, I've pushed like the first version of my app on Play Store. If I come and push another version and they don't match because it wasn't signed, itakata. like it won't haitakubali the update. And the reason for this is, assume someone steals your Play Console account, they can't modify your code, so you have to sign your application. So all the versions that will be coming in later on zitakwanga na the same nini. So remember, we are not geniuses, so let's Google how to sign an application. So sign in a Flutter application. Documentation husaidia sana. So how are we going to sign a Flutter application? So this is how we are going to sign it. There's a command that you're going to be using. So come on, install Flutter and the whole Android Studio SDK. It comes with a tool known as Keytool. So this is the command that you're going to be using. So that's what you're going to be using to sign our application. But yeah, I'll do it my way. So it's normally like a Keytool, and then generate key, and then it's a keystore file. And then have I left anything behind? Yeah, it's a keystore file. And then the exact name of the file that I want to store and or to have. So in this case, I can just say it's called par dot or just parkey.gps. And then I can set my key algorithm. So what algorithm do you want to use to sign your application? I'll set RSA, and then the size of your key. So I'm going to set 2048 bits, and then the validity of these, I'm going to set 10,000. Sijui kama inakwanga 10,000 years or 10,000 days, I have no idea. And also an alias that you're going to be using. So the alias in this case, I'll just use par. So that's the alias I'm going to use. And when you press enter, okay, I think nimeka a wrong, let's see. Yeah, what's the error? Let me check something. Keystore. Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to have a hyphen. There's a hyphen. Keytool-gen key-v keystore, the name of the file, key algorithm, store type, blah blah blah. So keytool-gen key-v. Yeah, so it's going to ask, okay, sorry, I usually prefer storing my keys in a file known as keys. So into the path, this means that I'm going to store it in the home directory. So in my home directory, I have a folder known as keys, and this is where I'm going to store my keys. So it's called par. So okay, par key.gks. So I'm going to give it a password. So in this case, I'll use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Remember to put a strong password, but I'll keep it simple for now. Re-enter that password, and then here we're going to provide some details. Si lazima uandike ukweli, so I'm just going to put my name, Alex Nyambura, the name of the organization unit. So I can say this is engineering department. And then the organization is called Perfect. And then Nairobi, country code Kenya. Information is correct, yes. So you can see that the key has been saved in this place. So I'm going to copy that path. And the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to create a folder known as keys. I'm going to create a folder in the Android known as key.properties. So this is according to the documentation. So you'll create an application called Android known as key.properties, and then it's going to have these values. So you can just copy it here. So it will need the details for your application. We signed it using that file. So okay, money gonna be to me. Have I copied it twice? Yeah. So my password ilikuanga to 1, 2, 3, 4, 56789. My key password was the same, but remember to have a strong one. 123456789. The alias ni yenye tuliset hapa, so my alias is par. So my alias is par, and then the location, this is where I stored that file. So remember, never commit this to GitHub, because once imekuwa exposed and someone gets your key, they can push changes to your application, to your application. So I'm going to take this path, nikuje ni paste hapa. That's where my key store is stored. Yeah, and if you check the git ignore, it's already ignoring those files. So with that, our application itakuwa signed, and we're able to, okay, we have like the minimal that is required to start running our application. So once you have this, you can do like a normal Flutter run command. But in this case, I recommend, because you haven't written any code or anything, you're going to do like a Flutter, what is it called? Flutter build. So you can build an APK. An APK is just a version yenye inaweza kuja and I send an APK to someone. But Play Store usually takes an app bundle or an AD file. So I'm going to like build the app bundle dash release, and I'm going to build that application. Once you build the application, it's going to provide a certain file which I can upload to my Play console. So let's have a look at Play console. So, okay, for Play console, inakwanga $25 to get a Play console account. This gives you access to publish as many apps as you can on Play Store. So as you wait for application to build, is there kuna place mtu amepotea? Okay, the build might take a while, like itakawia, so we're also going to sort of skip that step. Okay, so this is how the Play console account looks like. You have various applications hapa, and you can see I'd already created the perfect in advance. So in case you want to create a new application, utakuja hapa kwa create app, and then you give it an application, you give it an app name. So the app name can be something like GDG, and then the package name can be now com.lxmoney. Is an app that I already have, something like Shili, check availability. Utaona that itakata, because remember I told you this should be unique according to the latest Google Play policies. So it's going to be whatever was there, because I'd already signed my application. Itakuja iseme that it's in use. So once you have your package name, you can set whether it's an app or a game, and whether your application is free or it's paid. So paid ni zile za you have to pay a certain amount to download the application, but it's going to be free. And then read the terms and conditions, the policies. Yeah, like Google Play inakwanga so strict with the policies. So ensure that you read them, and once you're done, you can just create the application. So I won't create it in this case because I'd created it before. So yeah, this is the application here. So once your application is ready, the next thing tunafanyanga is utakuja hapa kwa test and release, and then go to testing, and then internal testing. So internal testing ni ile before you launch an application, we want to test it internally, maybe among the team. We want to test our application internally, and then later on we probably release the application. That's a thing. Yeah, so okay, in my case, this will take a long time. I'm going to cancel that process, So I'm going to use I already have a certain mini. Okay, just a minute. I'm going to use a certain keys that I already have. So, okay, once you push your application, okay, I'll show you how it's done. Just chill, Cassie. I'll show you how it's done later on. Tuendelee with the coding, with the whole thing. So that once you have your application hapo, you'll come back to your homepage, and then we have this thing. Okay, yeah, you'll come up kwa settings, and then you have this part known as license testing. So what license testing is exactly, ni ile you can add like a certain email. This is just to allow you to test your application without paying any amount. It's like having a sandbox environment for paying. So unaweza kuja add like your email there, and then which means whatever that email the device you go on, they won't be able to like, you'll be able to test it, and I'll show you how that works. So yeah, so what else? What else? And then we also have the testers. So the testers that apply in the, when you come to the application, and on the internal testing, you have to add testers who will be there to test the application, because you can't like release just Evo 2 on Play Store without having testers like for a period of 14 days and blah 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 on closed testing. But in our case, we'll only do internal testing. So ukikuja hapa kwa testing, internal testing, so we have this testers part. So this is where you'll be able to invite your testers. So utakuja tu hapa and you just sort of fill those emails like who you want to invite, and they can access the application without it going live yet. And then you can just share it with them using a certain link that will be provided. So that's just the basic. So hapa hivi, we have this thing called Monetize with Play. And now this is where we're going to be setting up our products. So yeah, we're going to set up, already we have some various products nilikuwa nisha set earlier on. And nikikuja hapa kwa products, first of all, we have one-time products. One-time products involves the consumable and then unconsumable. So you just come and create like a product that you want to use. So up already we have various products. We're going to create a new product with you. So in our case, remember I've told you we are building like a certain cafe, yeah, cats to, yeah, your cats. So I'm going to be having like 1 cat treat, 5 treats, 10 treats, and also an unconsumable, which is the golden football. So food ball. So how to create a one-time product? Utakuja open this part up, create a one-time product, and this is like what you want to have there. So it must have a product ID. The product ID is, you can't change it and you can't reuse it. So ensure that whatever you write now, ndio utatumia forever. In case you have a typo, ndio utaenda nayo to your application. So the product ID, in this case, we can have something like, okay, hapa tulikuanga na, let me confirm what you had previously. I think ilikuanga something like, I'm going to stay consistent with these. So it's treats pack 10. So I'm going to create a treats pack 20. So that's the product ID that already exists. So nitaenda na treats pack 20. And then the name, I'll just call it 20 cat treats. So remember, these are the products that you'll be selling in your application. And then the description, I can say 20 is enough. That's a description. Inaweza kuwa ni maybe you're selling a certain, you can be selling like a guns hapo hivyo. So yeah, nimesikia notification. Is there a question? Okay, Martin, niko umelalia keyboard. So yeah, once you're here, the next thing tutakuja kwa next. So what you're creating now is just a product. And remember, for you to have access to that product, lazima uweke the billing permission. So the purchase option ID, I'll just call this buy, because you're buying for a period of time. And then you can set the prices. So I'm going to set the prices in bulk. And I'll select all of them. And then continue. So this will apply to all the countries. So ndakuja ni set my price as 700 in Kenya shillings, and then apply. And it will reflect the rates to every other country. It will reflect the rates to every other country. So unaona, like in Albania, this is the currency, like whatever rating they use. And remember, there's also a certain fee, like the VAT. I don't know how tax works, but where's Kenya? So yeah, you can see in Kenya, Google will take 16%. Okay, I don't know if that's a route or must go thing ama ni Google, but yeah, so Google will take 16% of that amount. So once you're done with that, you can activate that product. So that's how you create a product. You can do the same for subscription. Let's see if we can set up a subscription. So yeah, we have a product. You can also add an offer to that product and a lot of things. So we're done with the one-time product. Let's set up a subscription. So for the subscription, currently in what I had created a subscription with just a monthly. So I'm going to create another subscription a weekly. So I'm going to create a new subscription and I'll call this VIP club weekly. And then the name will just be VIP cat club weekly. And then I'm going to create it. So as it's creating, the next thing we'll create is a base plan. So a base plan is a subscription. On what plan will it apply to? So the base plan ID, I'll just call it weekly. And the type, it will be auto-renewing. That means if you expire, they'll have to pay again and again. So I'm going to pay weekly. And grace period, I'll just put a grace period of 1 day. And then the rest I'll leave it as default. So next I'll set a price. So I don't remember what it was for. Okay, so look at the price that we had for monthly, but we'll just guess here. So I'm going to set a price and price yetu tutaweka, let me see, I think 300 will do. So I'm going to update that. And yeah, once it may reflect, you can just save it. You can save everything and activate it. And so we have 2 subscriptions and I think like 6 products. So we have a weekly subscription and a monthly subscription. So isn't okay, you'll see how this will be implemented in the application. So yeah, let's now go back to the code. Okay, so in our case, I'm going to do a bit of, okay, hizi vitu nimezisign with the different keys. So I'm going to sort of sign the application with the same keys that I used when I was trying to play around with this application so that we can get the consistent things here. Yeah, so in this case, I'm going to, okay, just a minute. So I'm going to do code. Okay, I'm trying to look for something. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? So it's under projects. There was perfect, and then Android and key.properties. So I'm going to use these details in my key.properties. So I can use the same file that you used for signing. And yeah, I guess we're good to go. So in our case, I'm going to do like a Flutter run. I guess my device is already connected. I'm going to do a Flutter run. So what Flutter run does, if you, okay, in my case, I'm using a physical device. I'm not using an emulator. So I should be able to like, I'm going to connect my laptop. I'm going to connect my device with, I'm going to connect my phone or rather my Android device with the whatever. So it's going to show here. So let me also share whatever is on my phone. So I'm going to use a tool called SCR, whatever. Okay, let me wait for the terminal to open. Yeah, so it's going to bring up my phone. Let me try to enlarge it. Okay, so what we wanted to build ni something like this, where naweza kuja and I just press maybe this, and I'll be able to be asked to sort of buy something. Probably if I buy it, okay, it's blank because it's asking for my PIN. So what I the PIN, and it should process the transaction and everything. So if I have, yeah, it was declined. So currently you can see that it's using my rail. It's going to use my rail payments because I didn't set my license. So let's go back to our whatever. How is this called? So let's go back to our play console. We set our email as part of the testing. So to jump back settings. So remember what we had, license testing. So this will allow me to like set up an email that I can use to test. Instead of it being my real money, it's going to bill the other money instead. So license testing. Okay, so I'm going to use my email. And then save changes. So that should enable us to be able to do this. Okay, I hope the application, okay, that was fast. I didn't expect it. So let's see. Let me pin this one here. Yache kutoka hapa. So always on top. So the application should install here in a few. I don't think we need this anymore. So right now we'll just be coding and viewing what is happening on the screen. So I'm waiting for it to install the application and do its thing hapo hivyo. So let's give it some time. So you can see it's installing. Okay, so far as we wait, does anyone have a question? Any question? You can raise it in the chat. Yeah, so it has finished doing the whole building. And yeah, currently I just have a blank screen saying hello world. And remember, hello world, it's in Akonga the thing that you use when you're starting to learn programming and tech. So if you don't start with hello world, then tech will be so hard for you. So lazima to appease the gods of tech by starting with greetings. So hello world. Yeah. Okay, so nimetumia a tool known as this. Hii jina inakuanga ngumu, SRCCPY. Let me show you. So what I'm doing, I'm just mirroring. Now mirror like my phone on the screen using this tool. It's a mirroring tool. So that's what I'm using to mirror this app IV. And I connect my device on my laptop wirelessly. So yeah. Okay, so let me just explain the code here. So the main entry file yetu hapa inakwanga our main.dat. And so our main.dat, this is just okay, well, let me try to explain the Flutter code sasa. So what we have is the main function. Think of the main function as remote. Ni remote ya nini? Unaona venye kuna kwanga na remote ya TV, the red button ya kuwakisha TV. So before you even think of using or checking the channels, you have to turn on the TV. So think of it as the main function. So it's the first thing that is invoked once your application starts running. And then we have to set our entry point. So in our case, we're going to have a mainer, which is our stateless widget. And then in this case, it's going to give us a simple text. So we have a home. The home is a scaffold. The scaffold is this white screen here. So I'm going to show it to you. Okay, let me first of all kill this and run it normally up so that I can be able to hot restart easily. So let's wait for that as I come. Okay, so I'm back and I've actually remembered kuna kitu tulisahau. So let's go back to the documentation. We forgot to point our keydot properties to the necessary. Okay, let me just show you. So remember when you were signing our application, so signing a Flutter app, we created a keydot properties file to tukaweka our credentials there. So we forgot to add some things. In this case, yeah, we forgot to configure our sign-in kwa Gradle. So we're going to look for this file. It's called android app build.gradle.kts. So utakuja tu hapo itafute android app build.gradle.kts, and then we're going to import these two. So utakuja hapo and just paste that, and then we also need these. So this is just referencing that file, and then itakuja it lists, like we're just pointing to where that file is. So it's just above the Android thing. So I'm going to paste it there. And then lastly, hapa tutakuja to add this other thing, the sign-in configs. So itakuwa tu ina point the key alias, the key password, the store file from our key.properties file. So it's going to like reference them and store them in these values here so that it can use them when signing. So I'm going to, okay, it's just above build types. So I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to paste it there, and then this one is not indented. And then also build types, I'm going to change it from debug to release. And my laptop is overheating, so I'm going to change it from debug to release. So in that way, we are able to application will be signed. So, okay, for those who are new to Flutter, as I was saying, let's go back to our lib main.dat. A scaffold is just a white screen. Let me remove everything that is here. And then I just save that screen. You can see screen iko blank. So that is what we call a scaffold. So our scaffold, we have various things. The first one is like an app bar. So an app bar is that thing that is up there. So we're going to create an app bar. So our app bar, okay, I'm supposed to remove the const. So our app bar, our app bar should have like some sort of a title. So the title can be a text. Everything in Flutter is a widget. So the title will be a text, and the text will say something like perfect. And you can see we have our app bar. Our app bar in your part here. If you want to see it clearly, you can have colors. Do you have like a color, background color? So background color will be colors dot, let's use amber. So you can see that's the mobile development is fun and Flutter is like English. So that's the app bar. And then we have now the body. The body tunaweza kuja tu tuseme, okay, watu wanawekanga nini kwa body? Let me use something like Okay, tutaingia deep into that later, but the body is the rest of the part that is there down. So we usually have the body, we have something else known as a floating action button. So the floating action button, let's do floating action button. So it's a button, the button requires a function. When you press that function, what happens? So in this case, nothing happens. It's going to be blank. And then it requires to like have, so this is the floating action button. In this case, nothing happens, but you can have a function or rather something that is done. Maybe print, you can say it should print hello. I think I should have a semicolon. So if I press this button, it should print hello. Or is it not printing? And then I can also add like an icon. I can add an icon inionyeshe like what exactly is in the, let's do icons. Why is it not showing? Icons inakuanga wapi? Let me check the documentation of floating action button. I think we require an icon somewhere. So that's a floating action button. And then we also have like a drawer. We have it only for those who are starting out. So we have also a drawer. It should be out here, sorry. So we have a drawer, and a drawer needs this part here. Here, you can open it, you can close it, that's a drawer. You can give it a background color. So anything that you need the drawer to have, it will be inside here. Yeah, I think we can have a separate session for those who are new to Flutter. You explore this. You can also have a bottom navigation bar. So the bottom navigation bar ni ile inakuanga huko chini. So you can have a bottom navigation bar. It requires items. But let me turn on Copilot so that it will autofill the things here. So yeah, it can have like the various items. So the items can be like a list of something probably. I don't know whether that will work. Yeah, it won't work for now. So let's ignore that. It will be just for those who have not yet understood Flutter. This is what Flutter does. We build mobile applications and we have various widgets for various things. So let's start by to demonstrate like how, let's focus on the session, which is demonstrating the in-app purchases, how it works. So I'm going to create like a new folder. I'm going to create a new folder called constant. So I prefer keeping my code as clean as possible. So I'm going to have a core. And then in the core, I'm going to have constants. So the purpose of a constant is it's constant. I don't want to redo something over and over again. And I'm going to create a constant known as product IDs. So product IDs.dat. The language that Flutter uses is that. Flutter is the framework, that is the language. And so we're going to create a class. Okay, let me get rid of everything that we did in main.dat. So we'll just have a blank scaffold. Yeah, we'll just have a blank scaffold. I don't think I've deleted anything here. Remember, a scaffold is just a blank screen and everything in Flutter is a widget. That's the secret to Flutter. And don't worry about the errors. Errors are normal. Expect errors always. Okay, this is weird. Okay, yeah, we're good now. So let's go back to our product IDs. So in our product IDs, I'm going to create constants that we're going to be using. So I'm going to create a class called product IDs. And the class will have like various things in it. So first of all, I'm going to create an instance here. So I'm going to create an instance called product IDs. And then I don't want it to be instantiated. So I'm going to set it this way. And then from there, I can now set up my constants. So you'll see how this one will come and add up later on. So for the constants, I'm going to pick all the packages that we created and tutaziweka hapa so that they can be used. Okay, so mnakumbuka there's a way we created them in our play console. There's a way we created them and it will lead to some confusion. So it's great to create the constants in a way that we can reuse them later on. But hizo tu ni vitu za creating clean architecture, like, so you don't have to do it, but I highly recommend it. So I'm going to start with a static const. So it's a string, and I'm going to start with traits pack1. So for traits pack1, it's going to reference to what exactly we had here. So remember we had our various products. So I'm going to use the exact name. So where are the products? I'm going to use these same exact names, the way we define them in the product IDs. Remember product ID, if you had a typing error here, then that's what you'll be using for the rest of your application. So I'm going to put it here. So the reason I've set it here is so that I can have, how do you call it? I don't want to use it this way. So I can have like my own way of the way I want to use the traits pack1. So I want to use it maybe as a camel case. And I can do this for everything that I have, all the products that I have. So I'm just creating it's just a constant. So, okay, sorry about this. Okay, let me just copy paste this real quick. We had various products here. We had treat pack1, and then we had treat pack5, we had 10, and I think we had 20. So treat pack1, 5, 10, 20, and then the next was it was a golden ball. So I'm going to set it here as a golden ball. And then the value that I want to be under to like golden ball. So the golden ball will be a non-consumable. And then we can have like our VIP club monthly. So in this case, we're going to make a VIP underscore cat underscore club underscore monthly. And we have the same VIP underscore cat underscore club underscore weekly. So in this case, it's VIP club weekly. So those are what you're going to be using. And so I'm going to create a static const. I'm going to create like a set of everything that we have here. So the set will be data type string, and then all is equals to what you're having here. So in this case, I'll just call everything that you called there. So treat pack 1, treat pack 10 is 5. Let me arrange them in order to, and then treat pack. So what I have here is just a list. I'm creating like a list of everything that, all the products that we have. So 10, and then we also have treat packs 20, and golden ball, and we also have VIP weekly, monthly, and then here we'll close with a semicolon. So those are the constants that we have. So in case I want a list of the products, this is the constant I'll be calling. In case I need a specific product, so that's what you're going to be using. And so the next thing that you're going to do, we're now going to be connecting our application to the in-app purchases. So still in the lib folder, I'm going to create a new folder called data, and then services, and then IAP service. So I'm going to create a service that will be able to talk to Play Store. So the reason I'm doing this, I don't want to like have I don't want my presentation layer to know what the backend is doing, because the front end should only get data. If I could just like this data is in this format, in case maybe the billing changes will go behind the scenes, our presentation layer doesn't need to know any of that. And this is why we have nini. This is why I'm setting up my data layer, and itakuja is nini. Okay, let me just show you how it works. So for the data layer, this is where I'm going to ensure that the connection works. In case it katai to connect to Play Console, all the crash is going to happen here. It doesn't have to affect the presentation layer. So the presentation layer will just be in charge of displaying data on the screen, and that's it. So I'm going to create a class called IAP services. And so we'll start first of all by creating, I'm going to create a variable called IAP. So the reason I'm using an underscore is because it's a private variable. Itatumika tu hapa ndani. So it's final IAP and then in-app purchase. So I'm going to create like an instance of in-app purchase. So if I do in-app purchase, remember we had already installed in-app purchase. So by default, I'll be able to use the in-app purchase up here. So final IAP is equals to in-app purchase and then instance. So IAP is I'm going to create an instance of in-app purchase. So you can just see everything for the code. When you do like control click, you should be able to see what the in-app purchase does. So in this case, it's just an instance. And then the next thing I want to do, I want to check if the store is available, if the store is connected. So in this case, I'm going to create a function that will be checking if our store is available. So I'm going to do like a future. So the function is a future. It's just telling your application that whatever is happening, we expect data to come from an external resource. So just picture this. I'm opening a screen and it loads immediately. It crashes because data haijakuja bado. So that's the reason we're using a future in this case. It has to like tell our application to wait. Something is coming, like there's something that is being sent here. So it's going to be like a Boolean. And then I'm going to set up like, is our store available? So is our store available? That's the function, and it's asynchronous because it has to like wait for data to come. And so we're going to await. Now we're going to use the instance that we created here. So I'm going to do IAP dot. We have various methods now. So the method that we're going to be using here is available. And that's it. So we now need to return. Remember, we're supposed to return a Boolean. So this function here that you already created an instance of, it should return either true or false. So let's do a return statement here because you have to return either true or false. So when this function is called, it's going to return true or false. And so I know maybe you're asking, why exactly are we doing this? Can't we just like call this directly from our application? And this is what I was telling you about clean architecture. We don't want this thing to be handled in probably our handled in our presentation layer. We want it to be handled in our data services here. So in case someone wants to call this function, they'll have to call this function that we created because we've defined how we want the responses to be and how everything should be. So we're also going to create another function that will give us the list of products that we have. So that's also going to be a feature. And we're going to be returning a list. So we're going to be returning a list of product details. We're going to be returning a list of product details, and the function here is going to be fetch products. Wow, it's been a long time since we type. AI has taken away our typing skills. So this is also going to be asynchronous. So the function, when called, it's going to fetch products. And the way we're going to be doing this, we're going to have a variable called response. We're going to have a variable called response. And this variable, it's going to, remember, because we're using async, we also have to await. So let's use the instance that we created. So assuming we never created like this IAP instance, picture how this code would look like. Like it was somehow dirty, having something like this. So it's better to keep it short somehow. So I'm going to use IAP dot, and then what we're going to be doing now, we're going to be querying the products that we have. So we're going to query our products, and then this function requires an identifier. What identifier do we need? So in our case, we're going to be doing a product. Remember the product ID that we created. So I'm going to do like product IDs. By default, it will import that for us. So it's going to import that file. So we're going to be using the product IDs dot all. So dot all is the list of everything that we had there. So that is basically what should happen here. So when I come and fetch the products, I'm calling a function that is querying the product details and the product IDs. Itakuja ichukue from here. So it's going to take maybe treat packs one. It's going to call all of them. And this is how they are referenced in Play Store. So I won't have to like call it over and over again. So this is how I'm going to use it there. So that's what I was telling you. It's good to have like a constant so that I can reuse it and make my code cleaner instead of copy all this and probably having all of them here. So in as much as yes, we've called that, we expect some failures. So we'll first of all check. We're going to check if this response here really had, if those IDs exist. So we're going to do like a response. We're going to do a response dot not found IDs dot is not empty. So that's the condition that you're setting. So in case this condition is true, kumaanisha that the IDs have not been found, ama like there's no ID, we're going to like print, we're going to print something. So we're going to print the error message. In this case, no product was found. No product was found, something like that. So for those who mnakumbuka learning introduction to programming in first year, this is where we now apply that knowledge. So usikwame hapo ukisema we learned C, we were learning introduction to programming, we were not learning C. And this is where object-oriented programming comes in. We were not learning C++. So I hope the whole curriculum now makes sense. So yes, it might, okay, assume we have the values there, like the products might be there, but they can have errors. So I want to check if that response, so if that response dot error will give us a null value. So if it's not null, so let's assume that if there's no error in this case, or rather if the error is not null, which means that there's an error, I want to print, I'll just say query error. There's an error query, and then I also recommend like sort of showing what error was there exactly. So I'm going to have I'm going to call that specific error. So I'm going to do a response dot error. So it's also going to print that error, and also here for the product, I want to see what error was there. So we'll do the same thing, and response dot not found IDs. So it's going to print the errors exactly. And okay, in this case, in case like we have an error, we're just going to return an empty string because we don't want this thing to fail. Remember, we're returning a list. So I'm going to return an empty list. And in case we didn't have an error and everything ran successfully, we should then return our response dot product details. So it's going to return all the product details. We're going to print all this on the screen and you'll see how it works. So basically that's how this is like, yeah, that's what our in-app services is doing. So now let's call our in-app services. So in this case, we're now going to create a new screen here. So we're going to create a screen. So still on lib, I'm going to create a file called presentation. So this is how I like structuring my application. So I'm going to create presentation and then all the screens that I want. So in this case, we'll just have one screen. So screens, and then we'll have a cafe screen.dat. We'll have a cafe screen.dat. So this will be a stateful widget. So I'll do a stateful widget, and then it's cafe screen. So the difference between a stateless widget and a stateful widget, think of a stateless widget as a picture and a stateful widget as a video. So yeah, that's how I usually explain it for a start. So this is a screen, but we haven't linked it to our main.dat, but you'll be able to see it later on. Okay, let's actually do it. Okay, we won't do it now. So we now want to like use everything that we've created hapa in our cafe screen. So first of all, we'll start by initializing the IAP service, this one that we created here. This one that we created here. So I'll come nitakuja hapa, and then we now do like a final IAP service. Did I say services? Let me call it service. I prefer having it in single form. I find it much better that way. So yeah, let's do an IAP service. So it will automatically import itself. So I'm going to do IAP service is equals to, it's just similar to what we did there. So we're just initiating on whatever we did here. Remember, our IAP service has various methods, and these are methods nataka tu zikuwe applied hapa. Same case to what we did here. Remember when we were doing the in-app purchase is the new packaging it will install, and it had various methods such as is available, query product. So that's the same thing that you're doing here. We have created our own package, which is called IAP service, and we've created an instance of it so that we can use it. So picture how using it, kitu kama IAP service dot something dot maybe whatever I have here. So maybe dot fetch product, whatever method I have there. Yeah, so I've created an instance. So actually, si lazima, it's just the type definition. You can see, oh shit, sorry. It's something that you can write or you cannot write. I usually prefer writing it, but you can also leave it blank. So it's just like doing a type definition of defining that IAP service type yake, it's an IAP service. So from there, I'm going to create some variables. I'll actually create three of them. Yeah, I'll create 3 of them. The first one is a Boolean for loading. So first of all, I want to ensure that the screen is loading, or that rather the data is loading. So that's true. And also another Boolean for checking if the store is available. So by default, I want it to be false. So store available, I want it to be false. And then I'm going to have a list of product details. So a list of product details. And then I'm going to call it products. And then it's going to be an empty list. So nitaweka these thing ones here. So that's just to define like placeholders that for values that will come to use later on. So another thing that you're going to do right now, we're going to now set up an init state. So init state is like it's the initial state of your application. So whatever state that you're going to be having here, we're going to have an init state. So I'm going to do init, and it's going to have an override and then super init state. I'll delete this comment and I'll set up my init state. So I'm going to create a function that is going to initiate the initial state of our application. So I'll call it init. And I'll now come and I'll create it. So there's an error because the function doesn't exist. So it's a feature function and it's going to return a void value. So init, and then it's asynchronous. And then, so I'm going to check, like, first of all, okay, so nakumbuka the values that you are having, like, first of all, checking if it's available. So I'm going to create a variable called available. Okay, before I proceed, any question before I proceed? Anyone who doesn't understand Swahili? Because I've realized pia mimi nimepotea kiplani. So any question before I proceed? Okay, I'll proceed. So I'll be mixing a bit of Swahili in it. Okay, I can say Frank is in the call, so I'll maintain English. But Frank, you told me you understand Swahili. So I'm going to create a variable called available, just for checking if our place if Play Store is available. So I'm going to create a variable called available, and I'm going to do await, and then we're not going to be using the IAP service. So I'm going to call that instance of IAP service. And remember, we had created this function called is store available. So I want you now to connect how this works. I have a variable called available. It has to store some data, and that data is coming from the service that I created. So I've already called this function. If I do control click on it, this is where we created it, and it was supposed to return a boolean. So it's going to like call Play Store. Okay, so you remember, first of all, we signed our application and we pushed the first app bundle on Play Console. And we have already like set the permissions to allow billing in our application. So this value should return either true or false. And right now we have called that function here. We've called it. So final available, this is just like saying, instead of hard coding the value, this is just like saying true or false. But we don't know that yet. We have to get that data from somewhere. So we have to get that data from somewhere. And this is why we're getting all this data from here. Remember, this function is returning either true or false. So in case like store is not available, it will return false, and we'll see what it will do with that value of false. And in case it's available, it will return true. So remember, we're just setting the initial status of our application. Once the widgets have been built, we require to have an initial, like how the page will look like. So we're now going to create a set state. We're going to create now a state for our application. So, okay, in this case, I think I'll just have one line. So I'll use an arrow function instead of having this, I'll use an arrow function. So I'm going to set the state. And what exactly is our state? So you remember this boolean that we created here. By default, it was false because it's false by default. So I'll just come and I'll put it here. So I'm going to say that now that value is equal to available. So here we are setting the initial state of application. And remember, available is setting true or false. So in case it returns false, our store available will remain to be false. In case it returns true, our new state will be true. That's what we are doing there. I hope that's clear. So now let's try to handle some of the errors. So what if the state, what if it's not available? So I'll do like a not available. What if it's not available? What should we do? So I'm also going to create a state. So I'm going to create a state. So the state that our app should take. Okay, once again, it's just a one-liner. So I'm going to use an arrow function. So I'm going to create a state. So our state should be, in case it's not available, should we still keep loading? No, let's not keep loading. So I'm going to use this loading that we created here. Remember, we had already defined a boolean. So I'm going to say is loading will now be false. And we're just going to return nothing. So the application will just stop loading. So I hope up to there, everything is clear. So instead of us, okay, by default, the application when we open, it will be loading and it shouldn't have any products. The products will be blank and we should have like nothing on the store. So you're going to create an init. So this is like, so an override will just override everything that we have here. So this is the first thing that will be called once the application widgets build. So it's going to like initiate, and then it's going to set the state, the initial state of our application. And by doing that, you're going to check if store is available. And if it's not available, should we like keep loading? Let's not keep loading. So we set that as false and we just return nothing. So that's how it happens. And now let's check the products. So we can now list the products. So we can have like a final product. Okay, I hate autocomplete for now. So I'll disable autocomplete. Let me disable it. Okay, I'll snooze it for around, I don't know, Now let's snooze it for 100 minutes. So final product is equals to, we're going to await. So we want to take everything. Remember here we had these product details and it was supposed to return a list of product details. So I want to create a variable called products. By default, we already have products here, but it's an empty list. So I'm creating a variable called products and I'm going to call that function. So I'm going to await, as usual, we have to await because we have to wait for the data to come from the backend or wherever it's coming from. So I'm going to do the IAP service dot fetch products, which is something that we created. And will wait. So I'm now going to set the state of our application. So I'm going to set the state. And first of all, I'm going now to allocate products. We had created products up here and it was an empty list. So I now want products to be whatever products we got. So those products that were fetched will be stored in products. And so this is where I'm going to store them. So we're going to have products. And then loading, it should now stop loading. So the loading should also be false. Loading is equals to false. So that's the state that we are creating. And that's just the basic of it. So we're just defining how our initial application should look like. And so here we have a placeholder, which is, we're going to remove it. So this is now where we come to the widget build. So hapa ndo tutakuja tuweke like how our screen should look like, how our things should look like. So before we proceed, I'm just going to link it to the main.dat. This is our main file. So instead of having scaffold as our home, that white screen, I want the home to be our cafe screen. So once our application initializes, it will go directly to the cafe screen. That's all I'm saying here. And then, okay, where's my phone? Yeah. So let me do a hot restart. Right now, nothing will show here. Also, if you want to remove this red debug thing, you can do it from the, okay, it crashed. It crashed. Let me kill it and open it again. So let me run it again. Oh, I've remembered. It's because you have a placeholder. We should have a scaffold. If you have a placeholder, italeta your key too. So we're going to place it with the scaffold. So let's wait for, where is it going to again? So let's wait for it to build again. So as we wait, any question? Any question from the chat? Raise your hand. I told you today's meeting will take a long time because we'll be writing code and yeah, we'll be doing a lot. So let's wait for our application to build. Okay. So I was saying our material app, remember everything in Flutter is a widget. And I think we'll have a separate session to just learn Flutter instead before we dive into the complex part. So everything in Flutter is a widget. Here we're going to return a material app, and material app tunaipata hapa by importing this material.dat. So material app is, I think it's a package or a widget. I think it's a package that comes with a lot of things. So one of the things we have is a home. So home is like where your application will be landing to once you've opened it. And currently you can see we have a placeholder. So let's first of all get rid of this debug thing, the red thing that you can see there. So we have a home. We also have something like the debug show checked mode banner. I can set this as false. So if I set it as false, it should disappear. Yeah, for those who don't know how to remove it. So there are a lot of things that you can do here. And so our cafe screen is returning a placeholder, which I don't want. I want it to return a scaffold. So the scaffold is the blank white screen. And that's our scaffold. So you can start building from there. So I guess we can now start decorating our screen and giving it some visuals. So we'll start first of all by defining our app bar. So the app bar doesn't require a constant. I'll remove the const. And we'll start now decorating by having our app bar. Okay, I leave decoration to cloud. We're going to write code once we're done. So we're going to have our app bar, and the app bar requires a title. So remember, everything is a widget. So the scaffold is this white screen. And then the app bar, it's that up part of the screen. It's the up part. So the app bar also requires some other things. So you can control click to see what app bar requires. We have like a lot of things that are needed here, like the color, animation, everything. Everything is a widget here. Remember that. So the title, we have something like the title. The title is also a widget called text. Text is also a widget. And the widget, I'm going to call it perfect cafe. I'm going to call it perfect cafe. And if I do Control S, I should have it there. So that's my app bar. And then I can now have my body. So the body is the rest of the part that is there. We won't have remember our body is dynamic. We want to check our body, how it works. So first of all, we're going to create our state, some sort of an if-else statement here. So we're going to start by checking the loading status. Remember the loading status that we created, it's a Boolean. So we want to check, this is how we usually do it. I'm going to do like a question mark, and I'll start by, so how this usually works. Nile tu ya kusema, how do we call it? It's just saying, okay, let me add a comment here. So we usually have a condition. We have a condition, question mark. It's called a ternary operator, I've remembered. And then the value if our condition was true. And then here the value if our condition was false. So that's what we are doing. So this is our condition, loading. We want to check, is loading true or false? Okay. And if loading is true, if our loading is true, I want to set another widget. So that widget will, there's a widget called circular progress indicator. It's just ile ninaonanga ikizunguka. So I'm going to have, okay, I'll have a center. Center is to ensure that every widget that will come here will be at the center of our screen. So I'm going to have a center, and that center will have a child, and the child will be a circular progress indicator, or rather like a circle. And what if the value is false? What if loading is false? What if we are not loading? What should we have? So this is where we'll have now the colon again. And in case like we are not loading, in case the value of loading is false, let's check something else. Is store available false? We want to check, is store available false? So this is also another condition. So condition and then the value if true. So if this value is true, we can just do like another center. So this is just saying store is not available. If store is not available, we'll do another center, and then we'll give it a child, and the child will just be a text that will be telling us that store is not available. And so that's what will happen if the condition is true. What if the condition is false? We add another column. You can do this by doing if else, but I prefer ternary operator to keep it clean. So in our case, I'm going to have a list view builder. So I'm going to have a list view.builder because I'm going to have a list of a lot of things. So a list view builder is also another widget that requires some things. So it's going to require 2 arguments, and the first one is the item count. The item count takes in an integer, and the item count is how many items are there. In our case, how many products are there. And remember, we had stored our products here. We had stored our products. So the product already has a method. So I can do like a products, because it's a list of products. I can check the length of our products. So the length of our products is an integer, and that's what will fit there. And then next, I'm now going to build the screen by doing like an item builder. So the item builder will require like a context, whatever here in our build context, we're going to require the context and also the index, like what are we having exactly. So we're going to have a context and an index. And then I'm going to create a variable called product. Remember, we are getting a list of products. Now I want a single product. So I'm going to get a single product by doing the underscore products, and then I'm going to set it as index. So remember how index is like, it's like doing 0, 1, something like that. So remember in our product IDs, these are the products that we have. So this will take the value of 0, this will take 1, this will take 2. Remember in programming, we count from 0. So I'm just going to use index because that value will be changing over and over again. And that's what an index builder does. It's like a for loop, but it's a lazy for loop. So it's going to take like all the products, and now we're going to list them. We're going to list all our products in a list tile. So the list view builder has a child. So we're going to return a list tile. We're going to return a list tile. So this is like we're going to return each and every product that we had there. So the list tile is also another widget, and it has, you can see it has a leading, it has a title, subtitle, and trailing. So I'm going to make it have a title. So the title will be text. The title will be a text, which is also another widget, but in this case, it's going to be a product dot ID. The product that we call also has a value. So this requires, okay, not ID, but title. The title, itaenda fetched from Play Store, what value we had there. And then we'll have a subtitle. So for the subtitle, we'll also have a text and then product dot description. And okay, let's see what our screen will give us. Yeah, so you can see we have all these value. Okay, let me first of all comment subtitles and refresh our screen. So this is the data that we are getting from our Google Play API. You can see that it's directly connected. So acha to PTA our code step by step. So our body has to return dynamic value here. It has to return dynamic value. And we have to check, first of all, the loading status. And remember, we're using a ternary operator, but I'll read it as if and else. So I want to check. Okay, you can see how it is. We start by the condition loading. We want to check if our loading status is true. If it's true, it's going to show a circular progress indicator. Let me actually remove this whole code and I show you what a circular progress indicator is. I think it's up to here. So the body can be a circular progress indicator. This is what a circular progress indicator is. It's just a loading screen. But you can notice where it is. So I can just come in, I can wrap it in another widget. So I can wrap it with a widget, and the widget will be the center. So we have another widget called the center. So the center will just wrap whatever we have at the center. And this is where I'm saying that the center has a child. So you can see it will now, everything that we have will go to the center. I hope now that makes sense. And okay, let me do Control Z. I hope I won't lose my data. So that's what we are doing. We first of all check if the loading status is true, it will just load. But if it's not true, it's going to check the next condition. Is store of the condition is store available, but to make a like an exclamation, which means we are checking store is not available. So if store is not available, if that condition is true, we're going to print this on the screen at the center. So we're going to print here store is not available as a text. But if that condition is false, that means that we have items in the store. We're not going to use a list view builder, which is basically like a list. We're going to have it's a list of all the products that we have here. And then we're going to use the index. Remember, this is like a for loop. I want to check for all the products that you have. Give me each and every product. And then I'm going to use a list tile. And the list tile now has various values. So in this case, the first value is a title. the first value is a title, and you can see that the title is this. So this is the name. This is the name of the how do you call it? This is the name of the product itself. So remember, we created the products before. We had the golden football, we had the 1 cat treat, we had the 10 cat treats, we had the 20 cat treats, we had the 5 cat treats. So it's getting all these products from our Google Play. On this page, it's getting all these products here. So I hope kama ulikuwa umepotea, you've understood that concept now. So it's getting all these products from this page. So if you're all okay, you can give a thumbs up. So it's getting all these products. So you can see it's getting them by their names. So this is now the product.title. It's getting them by their names, by the title themselves. And then we are using our product ID to get that specific ID. So also remember that the product is coming inakuja ikiwa mob. Apart from the title, we have like the description. So I'm going to have now like a subtitle, and it's sort of commented out here. Sikuataka the screen to be a bit cluttered and you get confused. So for the subtitle, you're going to get the description of a single product. And this is the descriptions that we created while we were creating our products. So let me shrink that. So an example is the 20 cat treats. We have a description for the products. So we have a description for this product, which is 20 is enough. So it's going to get the product and the name and the description, the ID. So all those details are being gotten from the Google Play API. So the next thing that we can also check in this case, we can do like a trailing and also another text. Let's see how many things we can list. So we can also have a product. So the product is giving us a lot of things. We can have our currency code. So let's see what our currency code is. And it's in Kenya shillings. So this will work according to whatever location you're in. So let's see what other thing we can have. We can have dot price. I think there's also price. So we have dot price. So it's going to show me the price of each and every of that. So remember, we had set the prices here, and these are the prices being fetched from Play Console, and that's how we display this data on the screen. So I've already showed you how to get that data. Now let's try to make a purchase. Let's try to make a purchase. We're going to start with the consumable. And we're going to start with the consumable. So everyone is okay up to there? Do you have any question before you proceed? Okay, so I'll try to keep this quick. I can see that time has really gone. So in our next case, we're going to now, we're now going to start using our products, okay? So yeah, we're going to start using our product. So in this case, you're going to be using a stream. And the reason we're using a stream is, think of it this way. A stream is just, think of a stream as a stream of, see, a river is a stream. It ensures that there's continuous flow. So when I'm trying to make a transaction, or when I'm trying to like do something, let me just use a transaction. The transaction should only stop once it has been made. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense. So instead of using like a single purchase, instead of using like a simple function, I prefer using a stream because we have various stages that come in when I'm going to purchase something. The first one is I'll have to wait for the user's GIK PIN, the user to do this and that. So I have to ensure that connection, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I have to ensure the connection is still available. So still in our IAP service, we're now going to add those various functions. So the first one is we're going to first of all listen to a purchase. So we're going to listen to a purchase. So I'm going to do a void. I'll listen to purchase updates, and then I'm going to have like a callback function. So a function that will sort of call another function. So I'm just going to have a required void function. So this is the other function. And I'm going to take in like a product detail. I'm going to take in a purchase details. Sorry, purchase details. And have a purchase here. And then the function is now going to be called on purchase update. So let's now try to use this. So I'm going to create a subscription. So a subscription is now that single connection. So I'm going to create a subscription. Is that the spelling of subscription? Subscription. I'm going to create a subscription, and I'm going to do an IAP, the one that we had up there. Okay, IAP dot. In this case, you're going to have dot purchase stream dot listen. We're going to listen for a transaction that is happening. So we require some data here. So this is now where we're going to have, like, first of all, we're going to give, it's going to have like a list of purchase details. So we're going to have a list of purchase details, and then I'm going to call it purchases. Yeah. And then now let's do like some sort of a for loop to check for each and every purchase there. So remember, it's a stream, so we'll have various purchases happening. So for final purchase in purchases, I want to now call that function. Actually, it's a callback function. It's a function that calls another function. So I'm going to call this function called on purchase update. On purchase update, and I'll require like an argument, and our argument here is purchase. I'll explain how this code works in a few. So, and another thing that we require here, we also need to check the status of our stream. So first of all, if this is done, I need to have a certain, what should happen if this is done? I want to cancel, or rather I want to break that connection. It's like making a phone call. Once you're done, cut a SIM. So I want to do like a dot cancel. Yeah, okay, I think there's a typing error here, subscription, yeah. Subscription. What's the spelling of subscription? Subscription dot underscore subscription. So you're going to have dot cancel. I think we've messed up somewhere, but let's continue. We'll debug later. And also, I also expect to have in case of an error. So I'm going to patch that error, and I'm going to just print it. I won't do anything, but in real sense, use the try catch to prevent your app from crashing. So I'm going to say this is just a purchase stream error, and then I'm going to have I'm going to use the variable so that I can see what error was shown here. So dot error, and then I'll close it with a semicolon, and I'll close that too. I'm still wondering why we have an error here. So everything here is okay, undefined, underscore subscription is equals to ip.listen. So it's a list of purchase details, and then a for loop. Okay, have I gone wrong? I don't think I've defined I haven't created my stream, so I'm going to go back up here. Yeah, I'm going to go back up here, and sorry, not here, where we're doing the initialization, and I'm going to create a stream subscription. It's a subscription to that stream. So it's also a list because we'll be getting a lot of data from our subscription. So a list of purchase details. And then I can also expect a null value. So that's why I'm having the question mark, which means that you're allowed to return nothing. And then this is now where I can use the underscore subscription. Yep, and I think I'm good here. I think there's something that I've not closed here. So should I have another? Okay, it's subscription.cancel. I think everything looks good. Why am I getting an error? Yeah, we don't need to have these. We need a comma. Where punctuation. So once we are done with this, we can also create another function to dispose. So once we've already closed the connection, we want to like kill everything that had, not dispose. We want to kill everything that was there. in this case, maybe you need to save RAM and to, yeah, just to ensure we have no memory leaks. So we're going to do the subscription.cancel. .cancel. I'll show you how this is being used. Yeah, so that's just like we're just creating the reason I was saying we have this thing is a stream. We'll be getting a lot of data from here. So our purchase stream, what I've done here, I've created like a stream subscription, which is getting purchase details, and it's a list. And the list that I'm having from purchase details, I expect something like pending, I expect purchased, I expect an error, I expect cancel. That's why I'm saying we have a list of a lot of things that will be happening here. And that is where I have to like get that function to first of all listen to, I have to ensure that I'm creating a connection for this thing to listen. So let's come and wire it up in our cafe screen.dat. So back in our init state, remember init state is the first state that is called. I want it to create to, once the application is initialized, I want it to start listening. So I'll do the IP service dot listen. This is what we have created there, that function. Listen to purchase updates. And we require a function. So we require a function of on purchase update, like what will trigger this to happen. So I'm going to create a function called handle purchase update. So in case there's an update on our purchase, let's say the status may change from pending to successful or an error, I want to create a function to handle that, and that function is what will be called here. And this is a stream that will be listening to that. I hope that's clear now. So let's come back here now, create that function. So it's a void, that means it returns nothing, underscore handle purchase update. Handle purchase update, and we were taking in the purchase details. We're taking in a purchase, which is of data type purchase details. And in our case, we're just going to have a switch statement. So remember introduction to programming, the reason we use switch is so that we can have different, instead of if, else, else, if. So I already have one condition. I want to check the purchase status, the status of our purchase. That's the condition. So I'm going to have different cases. So the first case I'm going to have, I want to check if our purchase dot status, I want to check purchase status dot pending. So if that's our first case, if that works, it should print, let me just say it should print pending, and then also let's just print pending. And then the next case, okay, once I'm done with that, it should break. It shouldn't go to the next condition. Once it's done, we break it. And then let's have our second case. So the second case is purchase status dot, in case we have like a purchase, the transaction went through, we can print, okay, this should be indented. We can print, what are we supposed to print? We should print purchased. Okay, let me just copy paste these. I'm a vibe coder, so it's nachoka kutype. So I'll just copy all the switch statement and I'll paste it here once again. And yeah, we had purchased, and the other one that we have is dot error. So it's going to print that we have an error. For now, we're just printing. We're not handling any of that error. We can also have cancel in case someone decides to cancel it. That means we'll just cancel and then we'll kill the call. So we're going to print cancel. And lastly, restored. Yeah, we also have restored. So a case where the status of this purchase, so purchase status is restored. So in case someone restores our nini, let's just print. And we're going to print restored. And then we break. So those are the case functions that we're going to be dealing with right now. And once we are done with these, we want to dispose everything. We want to dispose. So we're going to now do an override. So we're going to override everything. Let me just use the shortcut. dispose. Where is the dispose? Dispose super dot dispose. Yeah. An override to dispose. Sorry. Was I supposed to do an override? At override. Override. Okay, I'm not using shortcuts. So I'm using the dispose function. So let's implement dispose. And the way we are going to implement it is by using the value that you already created. So how exactly are we going to dispose? So using the IAP service dot dispose, which we already created, which will basically just cancel. It will just cancel that subscription. So think of a subscription as a call. Let's say nimekuja and I've called one of you in this group. Let's say I've called Chacha. That's a subscription. And now it has to be listening to the transaction. So I'm like telling Chacha, hi, do you want to, what are you buying? So Chacha will be like, okay, the status of that subscription, as we have defined here, the status of that subscription is pending. That's why we have to ensure the connection is still available. So first of all, it will be pending. And then if it's pending, we expect some other things to happen. He can decide to, an error can occur, maybe network ipotee. He can cancel it, he can purchase it, or it can be like a restoration. Let's say you uninstalled the app and installed it again. You still want to try to, we can't say that you never paid for it just because if you're back and if your subscription is still active, we'll need to restore it. So that's what we are doing. And we have this handle patches update, which you're going to be checking the patches. And remember, we initialize this in our init state. So once init is called, the subscription is enabled. And once all this is done, this is where we have our break. Once, let's say, I've managed to purchase, I'll break, and then I'll dispose. In this case, tuseme tu ni kukata simu. Yeah, like cut the call because I'm done listening and the subscription is done. So I hope up to there we're okay. If you're okay, you can give a thumbs up. Yeah, for those who are still not getting it, there's a lot that you'll learn later on. Once we get into Flutter development, there's a lot you'll learn. For now, I know maybe the syntax in a kushtua, or you might be finding it hard. So yeah, I think Papia Kokwa call. Where is your lead? Yeah, so Martin will organize with the Android development lead. You have more Flutter sessions. So I guess we can proceed. So right now we have that, but we are still not getting a subscription. So let's try to now create a subscription. So in our case, we're going to create now, we're going to buy something. We're going to buy a consumable. We're going to buy a consumable. So I'm going to go back to our IAP state, and I'm now going to create another function. It won't return anything. So the function is just called buy consumable. And I'm going to take in the product details. So what product do you want to buy? So it's a function that takes in a certain product. So this product, remember it's like some sort of a variable. I might be wanting to buy 10 cat treats. So that's what I'm having here. So in short, it's buy consumable and the product that you want to buy. So in our case, I'm going to have a final purchase param. So I'm going to have a purchase parameter. So what exactly I'm buying. So this is just what purchase the buy consumable requires. So I'm going to initialize this also. So purchase param. And then for the product details, that specific product that you have. So purchase param is just a function that is there in the IAPs, the IAP. So we're going to now buy a consumable. So remember we had our IAP, so we'll do our IAP dot buy consumable. It's a function that is already there. And I told you it requires a purchase param. So the purchase param is this that we have already created here, or you can just take all this and ingize. So the parameters that are required in this purchase are just the product. You only need the product. Give me the product name and I'm going to buy that consumable. So this does nothing, and that's why it's returning a void. It does nothing. All it does it will bring up that pop-up and then you pay. So now let's have a function that will complete that purchase. So this is a feature. Remember, a feature function is just ile ya ngoja kidogo. And then the function, I'm going to call it complete purchase. And then it should take in the purchase details. And it's that single purchase that I'm taking. And it's an asynchronous function. And I'm going to await, and then IP dot complete purchase. And what I need there is purchase itself. So this is the function I'm going to call, sorry, complete. This is the function I'm going to call when I want to complete a purchase. So yeah, so this one will give us the bottom sheet. I'll show you what a bottom sheet is. And this is what will now complete that purchase. This does nothing. It will just bring up the pop-up. It's like that thing for signing with Google. It just brings the pop-up but does nothing. So this is what will now ensure that everything is there. So we're now going to go back. We're now going to have like, how do we call it? We're going to create a different domain. So the domain, we're going to have a domains here, a different model for our cards. So in lib, we'll have domain, and then we'll have models, and then we want to have the state of that card. So card state dot start. So this is checking if the card is happy, if the card is sad. So, and you're going to have it as a notifier. So I'm going to have a class card state, but in this case, we're going to extend. So we're going to say extends change notifier. So change notifier is just a function that will enable us to keep on checking the status of our application. So I'm going to start with an int, and I'm going to check our treat count. By default, we'll just start with 0. In case someone has just opened the application, everything starts at 0. And then I have to check Boolean. Does this card have our golden ball? Does it have a golden ball? By default, it's false. They have to buy it. In order for them to get a treat, they have to buy it. So by default, it's 0. And that's why we are defining our states here. And then another Boolean, is this card a VIP? So is VIP active? By default, it's also false. But remember, we don't hard code these values. Ensure your backend is the single source of truth. So once you have that, you're also going to create another function to add a treat. So I'm going to create a function to add a treat. A treat is just what we're giving the cat. And in order for us to have a treat, so one treat, we're buying one treat at 60 shillings. So if I get 60 shillings, I can buy one treat. For 400 shillings, I can buy 10 treats. But by default, when someone just opens the application, we need to have an initial state. And in this case, it's 0. And they don't have a ball yet, and they're not a VIP. So how can we add a treat? That's the function that we are creating now. So it's going to take in an input of the amount. So whatever amount we had, in this case, if it's 60, you're going to add an amount. You're going to add the certain treats. So, okay, sorry, I'm supposed to have curly brackets. So I'm going to set up my treat count, which is what we are defined here. So instead of it being 0, we're going to add is equal to amount, whatever amount we had. So whatever amount was there, that's what we'll have. And then we'll have a notify listener. So remember, we still have we're going to have a notify listener. This is just to ensure that our screen, in case I've bought something, our screen will know that that has happened and the changes will reflect in real time. And then I can have another function to feed the cat. So we are buying a treat and we're feeding the cat. Remember, it's a consumable. We have to use it. So I want to feed the cat. And the way we're going to feed a cat is by checking, first of all, if our treat count, we have to check if our treat count is greater than 0. You can't feed a cat and you have nothing. So if it's greater than 0, that means you can give it food. And by giving it food, that means you have to minus 1 from what we have. And notify whoever is listening. So notify the listeners. Notify whoever is listening. And that's just for start. And then next we can get some sort of, we can get the mode of the cat. Let's have the mode of the cat. So let's have a string and then get mode emoji. Let's use emojis. So mode emoji, and if the treat count, is greater than or equal to 10, we want to return a happy cat. Okay, I'll go fetch the emojis in a few. So we want to return a happy cat. But if the treat, if the food is greater than or equal to 3, so if the treat count is greater than or equal to 3, we want to return a cat that is almost happy. So I'll put the emojis there. And now let's check a cat which only has something that is greater than 1. So the treat count should be greater than or equal to 1. We need to return as a cat that is sad. And in case we don't have any treats, let's say it's 0, let's return a cat that is crying. So let me get the emojis in a few. Okay, I'm planning to finish by 10:30. So I hope it won't take long. So let's now add it here. So we're going to have a happy cat. In case the treat is a lot, we're going to have a happy cat. And in case utu tuseme ni wale wenye wako tu. So let me get one that is just a different cat, a different face. Okay, let me get a different face. So in ile tu ya iko sawa tu, nipatie hiyo. And then let's have a cat that is suffering. So this will represent Kenyans under Ruto's regime, a crying cat. So this is just the mood so that I can show you how state management works. So from here, we're going now to add this to our IAP service. So we're going to have this in our IAP service where we have our product details. Where did we have our product details? No, in our product IDs, sorry. Yeah, we're going to set it in our product IDs. Is it in our product IDs? What exactly are we using? The cat state? It should be in the constants. And then product IDs. So we're going to create a new static int. So we're going to be exchanging treats for products. So treats for product. Treat for product. And we're going to take in the product ID, which is a string. String. A string is just a text. So product ID. Okay. And then from here, we'll just have a switch statement again to keep it simple. And what we're going to be checking is the product ID. So what we're going to be doing here, we're going to be exchanging treats for product. So remember, we have various products. Let's start with our first case. The first case is our treat, this one, treat pack 1. In case we have treat pack 1, we just want to return one treat. So we're going to return 1 treat. And we're not going to break because return already does the break automatically. And next, we're going to do like another case where, let's say the user has decided to go with the second treat, which is treats pack 5. If they choose pack 5, we'll just give them 5. We'll give them 5 treats. So return 5. And let's have another case. So another case, we'll have 10 of them. So treats pack 10. And you're going to return 10. And then lastly, we are going to have our treats pack 20. And this will give us 20 treats. So return 20. And then lastly, in case they don't choose anything, we just give them a 0. Or if they choose anything that is not part of what we have, we're going to return a 0. So this is just a function that trades treats for a product. So in case a user selected this one here, if a user selected this one, we'll give them 1. If they selected this one, we'll give them 2, depending on what they bought. So that's basically what it does. Now let's put it on the screen, on our card screen. Let's wire it up on the screen. So we're going to have, we'll first of all ensure we have our listener. So where's our init state? So in our init state, we're going to set up our listener. So in this case, our listener, okay, before we set up our listener, let's define our cat state here. So we're going to do like a final cat state underscore cat state is equal to cat state. So that's just instantiating cat state. And then now let's come and we can use it. So yeah, so inside here in the init state, we'll create another listener. So I want it to listen to the state of our cat. So we're going to do cat state dot add listener, and add listener will have a set state. So we'll give it a function to set a state. So we'll have a set state, set state. So it's going to set the new state of the screen. And in this case, okay, well, these brackets are too many. So let me see, we'll have a function here. And then I guess I have to remove one bracket. Okay, let me start over again. So I need to have an add listener. So our add listener, okay, just a minute. Add listener should have a listener, and our listener in this case should be calling a function which is set state, and set state should be rebuilding the cat state. So I'll show you where that works. So we're going to be rebuilding our screen, and then okay, that syntax was a bit challenging. So once we have that, so it's going to check the status of it's going to check our cat state. So if our cat needs something, or if our cat wants something, that is where we're going to be checking the status of the cat. I mean the status, yeah, the status of the cat. So right now, we're going to buy something. Yeah, we're going to buy something. So first of all, I'm going to change our trailing with a button. Here we have instead of having a text, I'm going to use a button instead, so that I can get a button showing the price. So I'm going to use an elevated button, and the function that it should have when it's on pressed, I'll have a function that should be called, and that function should be IAP service dot buy consumable. Remember the one that I told you, the buy consumable. And then what I'm going to buy is the product that has been selected. And then for the child, I'll just have a text, and that text will be giving us the price of the product. So we can have the product.price, product.price. And let me do a formatting so that it go a bit cleaner. So instead of trailing to Kwena this text here, we're going to have a button instead. So let's have a look. Okay, I need to do like a hot restart because I've done a lot of widget builds. So I'm going to, instead of hot reload, I'll hot restart. So I'm going to have a new state of our application. And let's wait and see how the screen will look like once it has restarted. Okay, Connie, do we have any error? Okay, let me kill it and start again. So right now we have a button. So once this button is pressed, it's going to call the buy consumable, which will now give us the pop-up that will enable us to buy or pay for something. Okay, I can see time has really gone. So let me try to speed things up. Okay, I don't know why I'm still getting an error. So So it's in IAP service. Okay, who used this? Who is using that? I don't remember using that. So let's see. Let's try again. Do you have any question before we proceed? Sorry for keeping the session long, but this is what we were learning. It wasn't another vibe coding session. So sorry about keeping the session long. Okay, I don't know why I have errors. My code shouldn't have errors. Yep, it's working. So let's wait for the screen to show up and then you can see how that works. So you can see it has now turned to become like a button. And if I press it, remember this is what I told you, it's going to initiate the buy consumables. And you can see it's not charging me because it's a test card. So it's a test card right now because remember Elect ilionyesha license testing. So I'm able to like get this thing. So it doesn't do anything. And that's what I told you back here. All it does, it just ensures, yeah, it's void. It doesn't return anything. All it does is inafungua hii kitu. And if I do like a one tap buy, okay, let's start with this one, cut treat. If I do like a one tap buy, it should be able to buy something. But before we do that, let me show you what we have on the screen so far. I've realized you haven't added like data to validate that what we are doing is true. So, so what next? What next? What next? We're supposed to add some things on the screen. And the first one is, let's go back to, where's the screen? Just a minute. Yeah, let's go back to our cafe screen. And so right now we're going to be checking the status. Where were we checking the status? Yeah, here in our handle patches. So right now, assume we've already made like a patches and it has worked. So I need to like make sure that I want to add the treats to that thing. So I'm just going to type this out really quick. I'm going to have a final treat. So this is how many treats that cat has. So final treats is equals to product IDs dot, okay, let me import it, dot treats for product. So I'm going to call that function and it requires a product ID. So I'm going to take that specific purchase that we had and get its product ID. And then I'm going to check if the treats, so I'm going to check if the treat is greater than 0, it's going to change the state of the cat. So I'm going to call back our cat state dot add treats. And then I'm going to have the number of treats that we got. In case we got 5, in case we got 10, that's what we're going to be adding there. And then I'm going to check another if, like the purchase is pending completion, because it can be pending, maybe waiting for the user to pay. So if purchase dot pending complete purchase, I want to await. So I'm going to await the IAP service. Okay, it should be asynchronous. I should have an asynchronous here, I guess. Async. So I should await the IAP service dot another method known as complete purchase, which will take in a purchase. So it's going to like wait for it to make the purchase, and once the purchase has been made, it's going to work. And now let's come and let's add some things here, some things on the user interface. So we'll go back to our widget, and after checking if our store is available, we were returning. Yeah, we're supposed to return some values. So I think I'll have to remove these. Let me see. I think I'll remove from here. Instead of having a list builder, I'll have a column. So I'm going to have a column. Is it a column or a row? Yeah, a column. So the column will have children. So you know how a column looks like, a column and then children. And then the children will have a padding. A padding is just a space between the walls, and then the padding should have the edge insets. But also the space between that should be 16 pixel. That's what I go with for default, which will crash. Depends on the device that you're using. And also here I should have a child. So that was a column. The column requires have children and then a child. So in this case, a child will be the text, will be a text, and I'm going to have, okay. So I'm going to have the state of the cat. So in this case, underscore cat state dot, remember our mood emoji. So it's going to show the mood emoji, and then treats, and then how many treats it has. So I'm also going to get that from the cat state. So cat state is keeping track of what we have. So cat state dot treat count. And let me format these. What else can we have? Oh, let's do some styling, just to ensure it doesn't look shitty. So we can have a text style, maybe a font size of 24. Yeah, I hope this will work. So currently you see we have 0 treats. We have 0 treats. I've deleted the other code. Let me see if I can return it. Okay. Okay, let me just, okay, it should be inside expanded. So I should have an expanded widget, which should have a child, and that child should now give us the list view. Where did I delete it? So let's have the same list view builder, and our item builder was giving us a context index. Okay, first of all, we had a, okay, just a minute, I'm a bit lost. So we had our item count, which was getting the length of the product. So the product dot length, and then here you are getting the context index, and then just giving us a certain, so final, I want to get each and every product. So I want to get each and every product, so is equals to products, the products that we have in index. So remember, this is a lazy for loop. So products, why is it not writing? Oh, underscore products. And then the index. And we're going to return a list type. Are we returning a list type? Yeah, we are returning a list type. So our list type will just have a title. As usual, we'll have a title. The title was a text. The text was a product. It was a product dot title. And then we had, I won't have a subtitle in this case. Let's just go direct to trailing, and then an elevated button. We had a button, elevated. I'm waiting for it to autocomplete, elevated button. And when it's pressed, it should call the function that we created, which was IAP service dot by consumable, which will give us the pop-up. So by consumable, and then we're using the product. For child, we'll just have the price. So we're going to have our text, and then product dot price. So product dot price. And let's format these. Okay, I'm supposed to have a semicolon. Format that. So let's see what our screen will give us. Yeah, so this is, so I want you to now see clearly. So if I do like a 60, I want to buy one treat for 60 bob. And if I do a buy, the treat has reflected. So I think you can now see how the whole code is making sense. So we have this function here. We have this function. It's first of all going to check if the product ID. So the product ID, it's this specific product. I'm going to take it, and then I'm going to exchange treats for product. So once I pay that 60 bob, I should get one product. So it's going to add our treat. And remember, the reason this thing has changed immediately without me having to refresh the page is because we have a cat listener. So it's keeping track of that. And then we have our state. So currently the state here is our cat is a bit sad because it just has one. Let's try to buy a lot. Let's buy 5. Or rather, let's buy 20. So I can buy that. And you can say get 6. Let's buy 10. Okay, I already own that item. Let's buy 20. And you can see that our cat is happy. And so now this can be used. That's a consumable product. Yeah, okay, I guess we can have this as part one for today because we still haven't covered subscriptions, we still haven't covered non-consumable products, and I don't want to take too long. We can have this as part one. So you can see something like for monthly, it's going to, okay, because I'm testing, it's going to expire after 5 minutes. So I'm going to subscribe to it. So that means I'm a VIP for a month. And if I try to buy it again, it should refuse because I'm already subscribed. And yeah, it should refuse. So this is just a basic implementation. And now let's now do the fun part, the part where I know most of you love, which is vibe coding. Let's have a proper user interface. So I'll just use Cloud Code for this. I'll use Cloud Code for this. Okay, I believe you've understood the concept already. So this is now where I'm saying once you have the concept, you can now code with AI. You don't have to like, yeah. So let's see. Okay, I'll just a minute. Uh, so hey bro, I have a project here. Just give me a proper UI. Don't touch the functionality. Probably creative and simple. Okay, I'm not a front-end developer, so I'll just vibe code the front end as long as my functionality is working. So be creative and simple and just focus on the UI. I don't know what to tell it on UX. Don't ask questions. How to save my tokens? Isianze kuuliza maswali mingi, just do it. Don't ask questions, go. So it's just now going to set up the colors and everything and just to ensure that everything is working. So whatever we've built isn't something good yet. Remember, you have to validate your transactions from the backend. Just say if someone manages to reverse engineer your code, they can just come and change this value to true and false, and there's nothing you can do about it. So let's now vibe code. I know most of you love vibe coding, and I'm also a vibe coder. I vibe code a lot. Sijui code, by the way, like I love vibe coding. It's the new thing. Yeah, so yeah, let's wait and see what UI it will come up with. Oh, I don't know, it's still thinking. So you execute, let's see. Yeah, allow all edits. Yeah, so in this case, it's just a time for Q&A. You can ask a question. What I'm doing is just polishing the user interface.
Guys, ask question bwana.
Watu waulize maswali. Okay, usiniambie this is the screen that it has given me. It has only changed the color. What the oh, okay. Okay, the colors are annoying, but okay. So now this is where we now have the screens doing their thing. Okay, Paul, the difference between a toast and a push notification. Push notification is an example is you get a notification on your phone. Maybe someone has texted you. That's a push notification. But a toast is just something that comes up on the app. I don't know if we have an app toast here. A toast just comes on the app. Like let's say if you're trying to fill in a form and then maybe your codes don't match, you get like a small notification on the app. It doesn't have to. I feel like kukua like it may attack like your application. It just comes on the UI. You can find it here. Maybe it's just a notification here. It doesn't trigger like ile yenye unaweza isome huko juu. I don't know if that explanation makes sense. Yeah, so we have our UI and let's buy our golden football. So okay, hatukuwa tumeset the functionality for non-consumable, but we would have done the same. You remember this part where we did the dot consumable. So we would have done the dot non-consumable to mean that if I buy this product, I will own it and it's mine. So let's try to buy it and I hope something will change probably. So right now it's acting as a consumable. So I think we'll have another session to cover that. And yeah, this is just the basic part. So we have like a feed. So feed is now I'm feeding my cat. So you can see I'm consuming the product. And I'm at 0 and my cat is sad because that's the state. This is now the state that we had. So I can keep on buying. I can buy 20 of them and then I can buy it. So I think like most of you can now see where the knowledge of introduction to programming in first year is coming from. It was not about learning C programming. We were learning introduction to programming and logic. How can you set this logic? Right now, I've bought 20 treats. Does it fit this condition? If the treat count is greater than or equal to 10, this is the state that it should be having, and that's what we are getting here. If I feed it, let's take it back to, you can see the face keeps on changing because, yeah, we are working with logic here. Yeah, so I guess that's all we can do for now. Okay, let me tell Cloud to do the, can you work on the non-consumable? Now this is how we vibe code. As long as you understand how your code works, can you work on the non-consumable? Okay, I haven't told it what to do. I hope it will think. It's intelligence, artificial intelligence. So enough I figure what it should do. Because I want, once I've bought these, I shouldn't get this button again. I've bought it and it's now mine permanently. That's the difference between a consumable and okay, ninanyonya credits. Should I switch to Gemini? Okay. So right now I think we're done. Yeah, I think we're done with the session. So for the non-consumable, it will just work in the same way. Just getting a non-consumable and checking if an item is a consumable or a non-consumable, and then it works. Let me see what I've been given here. Okay. Okay. Okay, I don't know whether you've noticed something. You can customize your application to whatever it has. Instead of having like a loading, a circular progress indicator, you can have even a text. Like right now, right now on the AI cloud has added something like loading milk or something of that sort. So yeah, I can see it's also adding the VIP. You can see warming up the milk. So let's try to buy. So I'm going to buy this as an unconsumable. Okay, yeah, this is now the app toast. Unaona this thing that has come here, that's the toast. It's not a, and then push notification is what comes in kwa nini. Okay, so I'm trying to see if I can, yeah, you can say already on that item, it's an unconsumable. So let's try to do the subscription. I'm already subscribed, so welcome to VIP Cat Club. That's the app toast. And let's try again, error, because I'm already subscribed. And yeah, everything is working. And I guess we are done for today's session. We are done, like tumemaliza sasa. I don't want to like actually add anything else. It's 1 hour 2 hours 46 minutes. So